Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is one of my favorite games to play most of the time. I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When Master Duel came out, and I've grown to really enjoy the game in general, and I played even the physical card game version in the TCG, and Master Duel is still one of those games I go back to almost every other day just to freshen out my skills and learn new decks and just enjoy and have fun. Regardless of how much I actually enjoy this game, there are some glaring things I really want to address in this video that I think could actually help make Master Duel better, not just for casual players like myself, but also maybe actually help a lot of the issues that comes with casual playing in general. First thing I want to discuss is the rarity of cards in Master Duel. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, you have like 4 different types of rarities. You have ultra rare, super rare, rare, and then common. Obviously, these cards are not always going to be built the same. The higher the rarity, obviously the more powerful the card is, or maybe even the more important a card is to a specific deck. But lately, it has become a little bit of a trend where most of the decks you want to play in Master Duel, at least the really strong ones or the meta-relevant decks, the rarity is going from a mix of a lot of the different rarity types to almost entirely being UR or SR, the main high 2 rarity card types. Right now, probably the biggest meta contending deck that's come out recently, at least within the latest set, is Malice. And if you look at the deck for Malice, majority of the cards in the deck itself are UR. You have like 12 to 13 different cards of Malice alone that you're playing, and that is it is absolutely astonishing how many cards in just the main deck of the main archetype are all URs. And then you have like, a few SRs and like a couple more either way. And this is just an example deck. I just pulled it up as to showcase how there's like so many URs for the deck itself. Honestly, just the archetype alone, you have to have 13 like almost minimum if you want to play full power Malice, and that's just the archetype itself. And that hurts a lot of casual players, because when I tried to put in gems, I had like 4,500 gems and I put it all into just the set of trying to get Malice. The only Malice cards that I actually got in the sense of URs are these two right here. Got one March Hare, one Dormouse. I got nothing else, and that is just me putting the gems I've earned from just playing alone and not putting money into, like shilling out all the bucks to try and play this next waifu deck. Now, you don't actually have to play like all these other special cards, like you don't have to play Cyanide Mining, Imperm, or Dominus Impulse, but if you want to actually play this specific archetype, you need to be playing all the different cards, and usually at the max copies of 3. As a casual player, this really hurts, because I want to be able to play these new archetypes, I want to be able to play these decks, but it's not possible for me when I can't afford to do so. But the thing is, Malice is not the only deck that has actually been given like high rarity cards, where if you actually want to play it, you need to get the UR stuff. Another example in the high UR card number that you actually want to play if you want to play the deck is in Tenpai. Tenpai right now actually doesn't have as many cards for its main deck, or at least its main archetype if you were going to play it, as compared to something like Malice. However, majority of the cards you're playing in this deck are either UR, mainly UR, or SR. And it has like barely any rare or common cards if you actually want to, put them into the deck, because unfortunately those cards are just not very useful and nobody plays them because they're not good enough to play. And while that is all well and good, you could like play a deck with like less UR cards and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you still have to play a lot of other cards that are high rarity if you actually want to really win games. The thing is, with Tenpai, they have cards that are really strong, like Sanguine Summoning, which makes your Fire Dragon monsters unaffected by your opponent's activated effects on your turn for the main phase. Unfortunately, because of how powerful these cards are, they ended up getting limited, such as this one, and for Chandra, one of the main cards that you need for searching. But regardless, even though these cards are like limited and you only play a certain amount of them, you have to fill the deck out with all this other stuff. And if you look at just this example of deck, you need so many different URs, like in the sense of like meta contending or meta relevant. You need so many URs if you want to play this. Now, regardless, you don't have to. But if you want to be able to win in this game, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh!, in Master Duel, you have to be playing a lot of the high rarity stuff. Now, there are some like decks that are lower rarity that you could definitely play in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And still win plenty of times with it. But if you're wanting to get into lines of like World Championship level, it's like the main thing that people are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For, trying to climb the ranked ladder. You need to be playing higher rarity stuff. And that hurts, especially for me as a casual player who wants to be able to play these other decks mostly for fun, to get that experience of the new archetype, of the new set. And it's just hard. I think I speak for multiple people when I say that it really hurts when you want to play a new archetype that comes out and you can't afford it because it's way too much. And even if the game is free, like Master Duel is a free game, you don't have to pay any money in this game whatsoever. It's almost unfeasible for you to actually be able to play a deck when it comes out, and you have to wait months upon months of saving up gems and UR and SR dust to even afford to play a deck. And that sucks. There are a few things that Konami has done for Master Duel that definitely make the grind for getting specific cards not as bad as it is for other things. When I look at it, I think that probably the biggest thing that definitely helps new players is the crafting system. In the crafting system, you actually can gain dust that allows you to then craft whatever specific card you're wanting. Every single card in the game can essentially be generated for 30 dust of its specific rarity. You can look at my stuff right now. So I have put money into this game. I will admit it, I have. I really want to get some specific things and I've splurged a little bit. But the fact is that I'm not able to actually get all this new stuff unless I am spending money. It hurts. The dusting system actually is very useful. It allows you to decraft cards that you have extra of, albeit only so much at a time, because when you get a card, you can decraft it for about like 10 dust. And the thing is, once you decrust it, you only get like a third of the cost. And that's usually not enough, namely for high rarity cards. Whenever you pull cards in Master Duel, you only have a very small % chance of actually pulling cards you actually need, whether they be SR or UR. SRs are obviously more common to get, but URs are the main way people build their decks. And unfortunately, the chances of getting it are like 2.2%. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is very much a gacha system. And even if you have the ability to just craft a card, you still have to pull the cards associated with that rarity to decraft them to get those cards. And a lot of times it's going to take you a long time. Like what I have right now is dust that I am keeping for a very specific deck in the future that I know is going to come out that I really want to play. And this is, it's going to be a lot harder to get stuff than I think is once those things come out. Probably the other thing is when it comes to other cards like the common and the rare cards, you don't need them. You're going to be getting more common and rare cards and pulls anyways. But the thing is, I actually own every single common and rare card that you can even get in this game. Maybe not all of them at 3, but I have so much dust and stuff that these cards are essentially, like all this dust is collecting dust. There's no point of having it, because it'll be really easy to get those cards, and the disparity between getting a common to an ultra rare is way too much. One of the solutions I think that could actually help people, at least in the sense of, making common and rare dust actually more applicable, is having it where you can transfer R, like let's say you take R dust, like take 1,000 R dust and have it be able to generate like 10 SR dust or something along those lines. Have an exchange system to where each of these can actually be used to make the other dust of the cards that you actually are really wanting to play. Like that is just one idea that I would have that would make some things actually more useful in actually getting stuff. I know like Konami wants to, have it to where you can't just spend all your money and instantly get all the stuff that you want, because you could spend thousands of dollars in this game to get the cards you're wanting, not get the ones you're really wanting, and then you can decraft all the dust that you do get to try and get stuff that you want. And honestly, that might seem like the game is a pay to win, and unfortunately, it's going to be more of a pay to win, or it's more of a pay to play. This is just one of the ideas that I have, though. Just making a simple exchange where you can just morph some into another. It doesn't even need to be a lot. It just needs to be something, because otherwise this stuff is going to just sit here and do absolutely nothing. There's no point to it. The other thing that I thought that they could do is actually introduce a new rarity, because right now we have common and then rare and then SR and UR, and if you look at the difference of numbers between these, you can definitely see, yeah, I think I want to have something in between to maybe give a bit of an offset for that. The fact that there's only 4 rarities means that you only have 4 different kinds of cards you're really gonna be able to get, but if you added a 5th rarity, maybe something in between SR and R, then it might actually help with giving cards like the correct rarity that they really deserve. The biggest card I have gripes with when it comes to rarity is this card specifically, Crystal Girl. This card, for whatever reason, is a UR. And now you might be thinking, well, surely it's got to be used for something good, right? I mean, obviously there's a reason it's a UR. There isn't. When Master Duel released, Crystal Girl was immediately put into as a UR category. And this, when Master Duel came out, there was not a whole lot of cards that were like you obviously are going to be playing this deck with a lot of URs. There were some decks that had a few of them and a bunch of them, but nobody plays this card. Nobody plays Crystal Girl. Why? Probably one reason is because it is a UR. There's no point in getting this card when it's such a high rarity, and yet it also doesn't have a whole lot of things to actually do with it. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase of this turn. Add 1 level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to your hand. It's a generic searcher for a level 5 or higher water monster. That's insane. That's pretty cool. But when this card came out, there was almost no cards that were actually good enough to even search with this card that would even garner playing this, because once you get the card, it's added during your end phase. It's during your end phase, and because it's during your end phase, unless it actually does something during that end phase, or maybe during your opponent's turn, or unless it's like a very necessary card for maybe the next follow-up deck, for the next follow-up play, there's no point in playing this card. And it does have its other effect. If you control a level 5 or higher water monster and this card is in your graveyard, you can special this card by banishing when it leaves the field. Okay, sure. Maybe it's got some applications. But what are you really going to be doing with this card unless you're trying to search with it? What is it going to be for? A link material? I don't know. The thing is, it doesn't have enough of a reason to be a UR. It doesn't do nearly enough to actually be a UR. Now, if maybe by chance that Konami was going to make a crystal archetype, not crystal beast, but a crystal archetype, I can be like, okay, sure. Prove to me, Konami, why this card deserves to be a UR out of all the other rarities. Maybe an SR, because it is still a searcher at the end of the day, but why a UR? And here's the thing about rarities. When it comes to rarities nowadays, whenever something gets released, more often than not, the cards are going to be URs rather than any of the other rarities. You're not going to be seeing as many SRs now as you're seeing URs. Every card that seems to be coming into the game is going to be a higher rarity because obviously they're much more powerful than a lot of the cards that were first introduced into Master Duel. But it seems like most of the time, most of the cards you're getting, or at least in the newest set, are going to be UR and SR rather than R and N, making them completely pointless and meaningless. One of the cards that I look at is Aleister the Invoker. Now this card is definitely a powerful card. It has seen so much play, and it still sees play to this day because it still has applications with ShadowGale, still a pretty good deck. It has applications with Blue Eyes, especially since, you know, new archetypal support and such, and this card is definitely one of those cards you can play with it. And I honestly think that if this card got released into today, this wouldn't be an SR. I almost 100% believe that this card would be immediately printed into a UR status. Because guess what this card does? It searches for the fusion, and then you just link it off for a card, and boom, you can get yourself a semi-omni-negate in the form of Invoked Makaba. Now this card is I say a semi-omni-negate. It's in the sense that you can send any card to negate whatever card your opponent activates. Can't stop counters, it can't stop certain cards, but regardless, with the specific 3 cards, 1 Aleister, 1 Invocation, a card that I do think could end up becoming a UR if it was released in this day and age. Invoked Makaba definitely could have become a UR if it was released in today's standards. I do believe that because of this setup, you're almost always guaranteed having the Aleister in hand, so you're almost always guaranteed a monster negate with Invoked Makaba. And that's absolutely insane. I really do believe that some of these cards are being shoehorned into the UR rarity, and they really do not deserve to be. Now, I will say this, that these cards, I'm glad that they are a lower rarity, because SR is so much easier to get than it is like UR. But man, I really do think that a lot of the rarities for cards need to be changed, and one of the ways they can do that is by giving us a new rarity. A rarity where they can take a lot of other cards that really shouldn't be URs, like Crystal Girl, and put them into a rarity that maybe fits more of what they actually are. At least, that's one idea that I have. Back when I first started playing this game, I was a low-level noob. I knew nothing about this game. A friend of mine introduced it to me, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll pick it up so I can play with him, because he wanted a friend to play, and I wanted somebody to play with too. And I picked up the game when Master Duel first came out back in January of 2022, and it blew me out of the water. I loved all the stuff. I loved the cards. I loved the illustrations. I loved the different things you could do, and I loved the game. The thing is, I grew up like reading a lot of the early manga, including Season 0, if you can believe that. The good news with Master Duel is there is a way to help players actually learn the game, and that is in the form of solo mode. Solo mode is where I spent a huge majority of my early time playing the game, because I didn't know how to play the game. They have all these different challenges and different tutorials and things that'll help you actually learn how to play the game. And I spent a lot of time trying to play and learn this game, because when I first loaded into the game, what was the deck I chose to first learn? It was Blue Eyes. Right? Like, come on, like, what other deck are you playing? It is like the ultimate deck to play, the ultimate one, minus Dark Magician. I did build that later. And what do you know? The first deck that I ended up playing against was my friend with Galaxy Eyes. And I'm like, what the crud are Xyz monsters? XYZ monsters? No, Xyz monsters. I did not know nothing. I absolutely had no idea what to do. And unfortunately, because he knew how to play the game and I did not, I was in a sense of like, well, it's either I learn the game or I just give it up and move on to probably better things in life. But man, when I got into it, oh my gosh, I now almost never lose against my friend. Not because he's a bad player, because I have pushed myself to know exactly what every frickin' single card his frickin' super heavy samurai deck does now. And unfortunately, it's not the same for all players. A lot of new players will come to this game thinking like, oh, it's free? Great, now I can learn how to play the game. But they may never actually leave solo mode. And unfortunately, the real challenge is not in playing against bots. It's in playing against other players. It takes 2 players to actually play the game legitimately. And it's hard to go into the ranked ladder, and then the first person you play against, like in Rookie, just dogpiles all these cards onto you, and you have no idea what to do, no idea how to stop it, and you just lose. And it's heart-wrenching, because it shows you the difference in skill gap. Like, for me, I played against so many different decks, and I got the harsh reality of what it's like to face against Eldritch Stun in the first set of Master Duel, like Herald Drytron and Toons for whatever reason, that I was at a state of like probably just giving up. But I persevered. I got through it. And at the end of the day, I'm now stuck playing a game that honestly I genuinely enjoy, but I really wish was better for a lot of the new players who actually play the game. Right now, with the state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, the learning curve is way too high for new players. And yes, I do agree that, you know, there's just so many cards that it's hard to get into the game. I don't have a whole lot of solutions for how they can make it more new player friendly, but I guess I got a couple ideas. The first thing is going to be in the form of introducing a new way to play the game. Right now, the only real way to actually go and play the game legitimately is in the form of either event duels, like specific festivals, or playing in ranked. Now, you can do casual matches, sure, and everybody can do that, and that's fun and all. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, you have to own the cards in the game to actually play the game. That's really heartbreaking because what if I want to play Malice? I can't. Because it's either I am lucky and pull the cards, or I shill out hundreds of dollars to maybe get a chance of getting the cards to play it. And this actually goes back to the rarity issue. One of the things they could do to implement the game and make more people actually play the game is they introduce a new system where, similar to casual match, but instead you can just play with any kind of cards you want in the game itself. That way you don't have to worry about trying to get the cards. You can actually play the cards. And let's say I wanted to play Malice and I really wanted to do it, and if I wanted to own them legitimately, well, what happens if I do get the cards legitimately, and then I play the deck and I hate it? What if I really don't like it? Well, maybe make a system to where I can actually play cards for free and not have to worry about trying to own the cards, and then I can actually learn the deck better that way without having to, go out of my way of going onto a different simulator. Like Konami, if you want me to play on your stuff, make it available. Yes, if you're playing in ranked, if you're playing in world tournament style stuff, yes, you should own the cards. I completely agree with that. But if you want somebody to actually be more interested in some archetypes and maybe want to learn how to play the game, then maybe make it possible, and also make it more available so people can play the cards without having to rely on getting all the right crafting dust to get stuff. Make it available so you can play whatever you want. And then if you want to play legitimately, like the real hardcore players do, then they can go out through of their effort to get the stuff. The other idea that I had was, it was kind of like a different random idea. Well, what if we brought in different formats that can stay in the game a lot longer? Specifically, going back to one of the previous events that they had, where there was only, a few sets of cards that have actually been released into the game, and then you can play with that time period of cards, similar to how they have Edison and Goat formats. Give us 2 different sets of ranked dueling, but do it in those forms where people can play with old school cards that, hit the nostalgia of older players who can actually play the game and enjoy it, and give us those types of things where we're not having to worry about what does Fiendsmith track do, and give us some things that we actually genuinely enjoy back when the cards first came out. Regardless of all the faults that there is with the game, I still genuinely enjoy it. I want more people to enjoy it. I want to have more people like the game. And I think some of these things need to actually be addressed, at least in the grand scheme of things, eventually. Because with the rate that new cards are coming out, with the rate of how all card playing is being with hand traps, floodgates, and ward breakers, and with just how hard it is for new players to actually come into the game, I really think that they want to better build up Master Duel as a legitimate source of Yu-Gi-Oh playing. Maybe take some of the suggestions I had in mind. Either way, I don't know if Konami will ever see this. They probably not. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. So, until next time, guys. Take care.